All right, what's up, welcome back, guys. What an exciting video we're gonna shoot. I'm very excited. I don't know about you guys, hopefully you guys are too, but as you guys can tell by the thumbnail, we got a VHR 370Z G37 3.7 liter VHR engine from Nissan. It's like a VQ VHR 37. So the story with this is a customer slash subscriber built this back in 2021, ran it for a little bit, and then it started having all kinds of issues, and we're gonna find out what the issue was. This was a donation motor, so it's pretty much just given to me to figure out what's going on. There's supposedly lots of goodies in here. So just from the invoice itself, this guy has Brian Crowder rods, BC rods, and CP pistons, and obviously a whole bunch of other goodies. Motor was like $8,100 when it was fully built. It was built for a boosted application. Obviously the rods and pistons alone are roughly around like $2,200 to $2,500 depending on when you bought them, if they were on sale or not. But yeah, the motor has some red flags already. I see coolant marks right here, 2-inch coolant in the valley, and if I'm not wrong, he said that he had put new heads on it, but who knows. So we're gonna begin a tear down video, and this whole video is pretty much tearing down this, seeing what's going on with it, how the VQ engine works, etc. So let's get to it. Obviously he's removed the manifolds and stuff already when he brought it to me, but from here we're first gonna pretty much begin taking off all the accessory stuff, like the oil cooler, the liquid oil cooler, all these hard lines that travel through the motor all the way around, the valley port in the back that connects the coolant. Usually there's a hard tube that goes to the front where the water neck is. Yeah, start removing everything like that, all this bracketry and stuff like that, and then we'll obviously break into this and see what's going on. Sorry to interrupt this video. We have an ad. Longtime supporter of the channel, Bill from Wow Travel Pal. I appreciate you sending me this. This is a item that they went ahead and sent, a travel adapter. If you're someone like me who travels, especially, we haven't been doing it much, but if you go to Europe, any overseas country, you are gonna need this. So typically when you go, your normal American charger isn't gonna work, but with the Wow Travel Pal, you'll get this nice sleek adapter. You guys can see the US version is not like this. It's squares, where the European, Middle Eastern, and Asia style ports are these circular ones. So you plug this in, then you can use your normal charger. Also comes with 3 USB ports and a type C. So if you are going to be traveling, you can find this in the link in my description in Amazon. Go get yourself one. Definitely a must, so you don't have to worry about finding cords in your hotel room or etc. You will always be prepared wherever you go. Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Val Travel Pal. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright, so in the time lapse you guys saw, we went ahead and removed all the water neck, everything, our oil warmer, coil packs, crank pulley, alternator bracket, oil filter. So this is starting to look very bare. Next thing I did was I took out the spark plugs to be able to look at them, look at the health of this engine, being able to kind of tell by the spark plugs. This one looks okay. They all relatively look fine, which is weird because the old owner of the motor was saying that he was having issues. Still looks good. None of them look bad. Anyways, more digging now. Alright, so just like that, we took the valve cover off. So looking at this head, looks brand spanking new. Nothing really looks too out of place. No scoring on the camshafts itself. So at least the heads both look new, which is very nice. And as you guys can see, most of you guys don't know how VVTI or works on these, or VVLE, or however they call it. So this is the motor, and your intake valves are controlled by this half-lobed cam. It's not like a full cam, unlike this, but the exhaust is different. And as you guys know, on VHR, you can only do, when you want to do cams, you can only do the exhaust cams, which is these guys. But overall, everything looks very good. All the cams look nice, no scoring. Anything, the shims look nice. And then I also see ARP hardware, L19, which is big baller head studs. So yep, this is very good, very nice. This setup looks nice. Obviously next we're gonna need to remove the VVLE motors, which is on the back, and then that will allow us to disconnect this whole assembly. Then we can go ahead and go to the front, start taking the front timing cover off, take the timing off, and then, yep, a lot of work ahead of us. All right, so VVTL motors are removed, and so that's the sensor, hardware, the motors, and then that's the tower cap for it. Pretty much the tower caps are right here, and that's where the VVTL motor sits. These are the screws, number 6 Allen, that holds the VVTL cam. So you're gonna need to remove this in order to be able to remove the housing. But yeah, now the whole back of the motor is naked. We can go ahead and see everything. So we got the secondary cam lobe, and then the rocker arm, which moves this cam up and down based on how much oil and pressure that's gonna do. Very solid design, but unlike the HR uses normal traditional exhaust and traditional intake cam. This has this whole complicated system. That's why it's very important, if you do timing or anything on these or the cam job, you have to know exactly what you're doing, otherwise you're gonna mess this whole thing up and never get it right again. But anyways, now we got all this shenanigan off, I guess the next step would be to begin taking the front timing cover off. That way we can go ahead and see all the pulleys, the crank gear, cam gears, all the chains and everything. And then I'll do so much just because it's raining outside right now, so can't really like move a lot of the stuff out of the way, but we'll do as much as we can and then get to the rest tomorrow. All right guys, another day. So the rain came and then I went snowboarding, and yeah, so it's been a good minute, like few days. But last thing we did was we took the valve covers off, VVTL motors off, and I thought I recorded this but I didn't. So I went ahead and took the front timing, just guide like covers on, which are these guys that holds pretty much. So this motor came with one of them missing, but there's one actuator right here, and then there should be another one right there. Now what this does is it reads these teeth, and it controls how much oil is going through the passages and all that, etc. And the timing, it's a very complicated system. If I wanted to explain how all this stuff works, it would be like a whole hour-long video, which we're not gonna do. But there's other good videos out there on it. But anyways, so now we're gonna go ahead, and the next thing is, I believe there's no more oil in it. We're gonna try to drain the oil, and then after that, take the pulley off, 19 mil, and then you're gonna want to take the pan off, because there is these two indentations right there, not the oil pickup tube, this, not pickup tube, the dipstick tube. There's these two. There's two long bolts inside the oil pan that go to hold this front timing cover. So after we remove the pan and remove those two, then you're gonna remove all the little bolts that holds this in place. So we go ahead and take this off and then look at it. Timing on the motor looks correct, but I will verify when we get in it. But one thing I already noted, which is not a good sign, which I'll show you guys right now. So in the front timing cover, behind these covers right here, which is that guy and that guy right there, which has their actuators, in these small little holes, there's these filters that filters the oil, and we have removed this guy, and already, let me see if this camera can focus. And for the one on this side, if this camera decides to focus, tons of glitter. It's not a good sign. I believe what we already knew about this motor is going to be true. Rod bearings are probably shot. Anyways, let's get all this stuff off and see what goes on inside. Alright, so if you don't have this tool, it's a really good tool to use to either take oil pans or anything off. But yeah, we took our oil pan off, and hate to say when I'm right, but look at all that metal. Holy shit. This is insane how much metal is in here. This thing chewed up so many bearings probably. Oh god. But yeah, drain the oil out of the pan. Not looking good. Holy shit. Anyways, underside on the motor. Motor looks so clean though internally. It looks brand new. But this, no good. God damn it. Alright guys, the camera battery died, I'm sorry, but we ended up taking the girdle off the head. So there's these two gigantic girdles that sit on the head. Typically you don't take the cam caps off for the intake side. I did just because I wanted to inspect the cam itself. But yeah, this motor definitely seen better days. Lots of scoring right here. I don't know if the camera can pick it up. Ton of scoring right there, some right here. Some of the cam journal areas look okay, but looks like mainly here it really got torn up. And then on this other side, same thing, really torn up. My nail gets stuck on all these. Yeah, this doesn't look too good. But yeah, now pretty much the next thing we gotta do is get these L19 ARP head studs out right there, and then we'll go start looking at the bottom end. But yeah, this thing's been coming apart very easily. Alright guys, so we got the head studs off. As I had confirmed, this one is clean because I was cleaning it. And this is the block, so looks like the long block is in good condition. We'll have to look at the underside, but it's got a little dirty from me cleaning it, but it looks like all the honing marks are perfect. There's no straight or scratching, which is a very good sign. At least the casing can be saved and used, which is very good. But now we gotta take the bottom out. These are our heads right here. Surprisingly, the head gasket was in very good shape. My conclusion is I believe this engine had brand new heads on it, and brand new heads on it because the gaskets are literally brand new. And then our studs, the L19 ARPs, very nice with all the heads. So yeah, we'll be parting a lot of this stuff out. Now it's time to flip this around and get the underneath opened up. Alrighty, so we found the pinpoint issue of this motor. So from the looks of it, when this motor overheated, coolant got into the cylinder, pushed on the rod, kind of like the same as a detonation would, and this cylinder pretty much ate the whole bearing. Bearing is fully gone. It's not even under there. The rod is just slapping against the crankshaft. Every other crankshaft journal looks very good. This one though, toasted. And also taking the rod caps off. If you guys can see, we're going from the back of the motor to the front. The back ones are good. When you get to that bearing, this is the rod cap. You see how it's changed this nasty blue color because it got so hot. Wow, look at this. No bearing at all. Scored the shit out of the rod cap. This can be fixed, obviously, but every other one had some metal in there. As you guys saw in the oil pan, there was metal. Every other rod bearing is not bad, but definitely has some scoring. That one being the worst, which sucks because the long block itself, good. You can get this cleaned up and used for another build. Crankshaft needs to be repaired. That's some heavy duty scoring. And the rod itself needs to be repaired. All the other ones, you can just go ahead and run new bearings on and get them cleaned up and you're good to go. But yeah, now we gotta take these guys off. We already have these guys loose, and then we can go ahead and take this whole plate off. Then we can take our crank out, push all the pistons and rods out, and then call it a day. Be pretty much it for a teardown. Bad news, $8,100 down the drain. Alright guys, so we finally split the block in half. We got our crankshaft right there. We still have to remove our pistons and rods. This is the lower girdle. This is what holds the crank in place, and we can look at the bearings right now. Yeah, pretty scored. Unfortunately, this motor, it spun this bearing obviously, and then the owner never took care of it, kept running the motor, so it pretty much ate the whole bearing. There's nothing left of it. As you guys can see, the crank is clear, and then we'll look at the rod when we remove it too. But that oil, when that's circulating through the motor, all the metal shards will go through all the passages of the oil, etc., through the crank holes, through the camshaft holes. You guys remember we saw the head, they were pretty scored, and now same thing. So all these guys, they look relatively good, everything, but this is toast. So yeah, that being said, if you wanted to rebuild this setup, this is just for reference of anybody who is going through this. You can always learn from this. If you want to rebuild this setup, it is doable. You would need to get the heads machined again, or preferably get new heads. Those are brand new though, so you can machine them to get rid of the cam scoring. And then you're going to want to get the block cleaned up. I don't think it needs any machining, just because there's nothing really wrong with the block. But with all the metal and stuff, you want to get it very, very well cleaned. You're going to need a new crank, but typically for safe practice, if you can, you would buy one new rod. So one new rod with the rod cap, because you guys remember this one saw the extreme heat because the bearing said bye-bye. So yeah, if you wanted to refix this, you totally can. Get a new crank, one new rod, one new bearing, and then all the bearing, one new rod cap, and then all new bearings all the way around. Get this thing fully cleaned up, etc., and you should be able to run this no problem with everything new in it. Now in this state, it's non-repairable because all this needs to come out, like I said, that whole process. But yeah, now let's take the crank out, and then we're also going to take the rods out and the pistons and go ahead and inspect and see what's going on. All right, so we got our rod, our crank. Oh, this thing is heavy. You can remove your rear main seal. Oh, this crank is heavy. All right, so that's the crank. All right, so now we're gonna pop all the pistons and rods out, but before that I went ahead and just pulled one out, the damaged one, so I can inspect it more. As you guys can see right here, this hold on, let me grab this better. This rod took some crazy heat at the bottom, but it was pretty good. Yeah, see some of it more visible there. It looks still straight, nothing wrong with it. These are, I believe, Wiseco pistons from the W right there. If the camera picks it up, I don't know if you guys can see that. And the pistons are in pretty good shape. The oil control rings and blow-by piston rings are in very, very good shape. Nothing looks damaged. No carbon buildup. This engine was actually very healthy, but it just didn't get taken care of. So yeah, now we're gonna start popping all these guys out. There's no scoring or anything. It's all crosshatch marks, which is exactly what you want. And also looking at the piston wall itself, doesn't look like there was any crazy damage. It's crazy how light these are. Anyways, so BC rods, Wiseco pistons, let's pop everything else out, and then we can take all the bearings out, all the stuff, and then I gotta get this block cleaned up because I already have a customer who's gonna be purchasing it to be using it. And these pistons and rods, I believe, are already gonna be sold as well, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, let's do that now. Look at all that bearing material just sitting in this engine. Yep. Check your oil, guys. Blow a head gasket, don't run your car. This is exactly what happened. This thing spun a bearing stuck on the crank. Bad news all the way around. Alright guys, so you guys watched me pull the pistons out of this. So we got all 6 of our pistons right here. For sure Wiseco pistons. BC rods, all confirmed, but they look like BC. They have a part number on them I can run to be able to find out. But pistons look in great shape. They're not bad at all. Rods, not in bad shape either. Like for example, this setup right here. So this was the first piston facing outwards. This rod just seeing normal behavior, you know, but comparing it to our destroyed rod right here, you guys can see this got chewed up very heavily. And I ended up actually finding the bearing for it, and check this out. This is what is left. So it spun the rod and the rod cap bearing. This is what the bearing should look like. So yeah, all bad news. And this happened exactly from what I mentioned. The first time this thing blew a head gasket, he ran it longer than he should have just turned it off. Ended up developing bearing issues and went down south because the crank bearings itself, right here looking at it, very normal, no scoring or nothing, normal wear. Doesn't look crazy bad. And those bearings as well, which are these guys, you know, there is wear on them because of metal going through the system, but otherwise these guys look perfect. They're in perfect condition. Obviously can't be used, but you know, for itself. It's unfortunate because the crank is ruined. That's pretty much done. Some may say you can machine it and polish it, etc. For me, this is just gonna be a desk piece. This looks nice. But yeah, I would just get a new crank. Don't waste your time. For the block itself, now the block itself is in perfect condition pretty much. It does need to get cleaned up. So it needs to get bathed, obviously, get all the metal or anything, if there's anything stuck in it, out of it. But the cylinder walls itself, I don't know if the camera can pick it up or not, but there is like honing marks. There isn't, so you want crosshatch marks like that. You don't want any lines going up and down. Doesn't look like too much. Like there's some here, but that's I think from the piston skirts itself. It looks like it's on all of them, which seems very normal, but all of these look very good. Just to put some light on it so you guys can see. It looks in pretty good shape. Very good healthy block still to be able to be used for a new build that needs to obviously get redressed. Yeah, see some of those marks right there, that's normal from piston. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the $8,100 built motor teardown, finding out what happened with it. Obviously very sad, you know, this is a pretty big investment someone made. Now it's toast. Not toast, but needs some love. And just wanted to show you guys the underside as well so you guys can see. Yeah, everything's in pretty good shape. See all the main caps as well, where the main bearings go. Nothing looks relatively too bad. Everything is pretty good. Anyways, thanks for watching. Peace.